Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another PGR reaction. Today we have one requested by Voltorian Games. This is Wither to Shine's OST. I'm not entirely sure if there is a title to this one or not. It's not even an official release, apparently. Just one that somebody uploaded online. Tends to be the ones I usually listen to anyway. And for me, at least, not much else is known about this one. I do know what event it's from, but that doesn't really give me any context personally, so I'm just gonna roll with this, and without further ado, let's go! It's a beautiful start. I mean, can't go wrong with a harp. It's so peaceful. It's like, I wonder if it's gonna be like this the whole time or not. Ooh. Opened up a little bit. Ooh. Ooh. Darkening the sound a little there. Ooh, I really like that relationship. Ooh. Whoop. There's some dissonance in there. So they're not trying to make it too pretty. So I thought it was just going to be pretty the whole way through, but there's a latent darkness in the emotion of this one. I don't know if I'd call it sad. Maybe closer to a form of longing. With the way it was played out. See, like, these sorts of resolutions that work their way down, like half step, it doesn't leave too much tension around. But then chords like that happen, and you feel more of that pain in there. See a little bit of a lift coming out of that, and this is gonna sink back down. See, I know it already happened, but like, you're feeling the ebb and flow of this. And the breathing of those strings there too. Man, they really are like riding that line of, is it sad? Is it longing? Is it something like somebody's died and gone? Is that what happened? I'm not entirely sure, but it doesn't feel necessarily fully like an emotional checkout either. It feels like there is this reminiscence to it. And that's great because that makes it emotionally present in how it's written. It doesn't just shrug it off and leave you wondering what's going on. It does have a little bit of an emotional pathway that you're trying to feel how the character's feeling instead of just being completely shut off. And I really like how it keeps kind of revisiting those darker energies throughout the song. That's so pretty. This song is absolutely riddled with sevenths and major sevenths too. Like major sevenths are just kind of a different form of seventh, and all sevenths are, for those uninitiated with like the past, I don't know how many videos I've talked about sevenths, but basically they're ones like this. This is a major seventh. The regular seventh would be that. This is the major seventh. Very interesting, but also creates a very large spread that you really need to get your finger over there on, and I'm not quite accustomed to myself. The tonal difference between a standard or a dominant seventh versus a major seventh is basically just like, do you want the song to pull towards something else, or do you want it itself to sound dominating and like it's ending the sentence? And that's really the only major difference, no pun intended, between a major seventh and a standard seventh. Is just that the standard seventh wants to go somewhere else. It wants to resolve somewhere and pull you towards a different chord. It's leaving that weird sound in there that detaches itself from the main triad that you tend to play, because that on its own is a very solid, confident chord. But if you add that seventh, a lot of the time it ends up bringing you somewhere else in your ear and you don't know where to go with that. But if you make it a major seventh, you're kind of just adding that end to it by going half a step up. It's basically all they ever are. But then there are other chords in here that utilize just a standard seventh, a standard dominant seventh, like this A7 here. This is not a major seventh. If this was to be a major seventh, it would be that. And as you can hear, it ends itself so much more confidently compared to that, which has that little lift at the end where you're like, oh, where's that going? This is the difference between this and that. It's just the slightest difference when it comes down to how these chords are structured can make a huge emotional change matter so much more. But these ones are utilized more as the connector sevenths compared to the other ones like the one I just played that really end the sentence of each phrase. And I think for this song, a lot of the dependency on which ones they decided to do are entirely based on where they want the song to go. And that's obviously, like I said, depending on how you want the sentence or the general structure of the song to finalize its thought, that will change when you utilize things. But in this song, they're like blocked together, almost entirely separate from each other. So like all of the major sevenths are like in one line, and then like all of these standard dominant sevenths are in a different line. And that I think is just for the emotional impact of having the song feel like it's so confident in itself and that there is a clear direction to go until there's not. And I think that's where I was kind of getting that like solemn energy out of the song, where I couldn't quite tell where the character was going mentally. And that's probably by design in the track, because at first it sounded confident. It sounded like they knew where they were going. And then it sounded like they were lost, like they didn't have a direction in their life. And then it came back, and then it started to intermingle other things like straight up just standard major chords that aren't seventh at all, but act as ways to finalize those thoughts all in the same. So while the sevenths are acting as like a domineering factor of this song, there's still plenty of chords that aren't utilizing sevenths at all that just kind of end their thought process. There's a lot of chords in here that are just standard ones that kind of resolve themselves in a way and don't really need that extra support, because a lot of the time sevenths, especially dominant sevenths, the ones that are not major sevenths, they need that other place to go. But if you're like ending the sentence on a domineering sound, kind of like a D, then that's all you really need, because that already has a very good resolution of itself. It doesn't need to be a seventh, because if it was, you get that lift and it's like, where's that going? Let me know where that's headed. You don't need that this time. You just have the standard chord, and that ends the sentence just as confidently. So back on what I was saying about how they're all clumped together, because that's very true from the very beginning, and this first phrase is the best way to showcase what's happening here. So we start off on a B flat major seventh, beautiful chord, love it. We immediately resolve it down to that F major seventh. So we just kind of go through those two again, and then we go to an A flat major seventh, which is the first chord I demoed in this song. Then we move up to an E flat major seventh, and we have that. And then we go from here to an interesting one, just right back down to a C sharp major 7th. We're just sticking with these until it resolves by going to a C sus4 into a standard C. And I find that interesting because we're ending this phrase here on this nice major 7th. This should answer itself, but it opens itself back up for one final resolution, and that's kind of where the questions start to flow out of this song, and it starts making you second guess, maybe this isn't a confident piece anymore because there's a stumble in there. And while I love the sus4 to standard major chord resolution, it's one of my favorite things, there is the question that it begs when it ends a phrase, which is that giant question mark with a fat dot under it going, what the hell is coming next? And by that, we then follow up with more standard chords that aren't 7th at all. So now we're sitting here with, again, the C here. We're starting with that. We go back up to the E flat, and we're revisiting some of these chords. That's where the D came in earlier that I mentioned as well. We kind of sit in this moment of not having these answers. We completely remove them. So in my mind, the character would be going through the same thing. So we asked the question, and now we're at a loss for that finality that those major 7ths have. And then when we get them back, they're standard 7ths. We go back to just a normal 7th instead of a major 7th. So that is now starting to get an idea of where it's going, but it's leading somewhere. It's keeping this emotional, like, notch kind of left unanswered at the very top, and you don't know where that's going to lead. That's the value of those, like I mentioned earlier. So this entire song is just constantly making you go, are we okay? And I don't know the context of this song. I don't know the event. I haven't played through that section of the game, but I could feel that that's entirely intended by the composer for this one. I talk about this a lot with every single song I cover, because the point of a song is to reflect a character and a moment in that game, in that movie, in that whatever, you know? It's the whole concept that you're trying to capture in that moment musically. And this one captures that feeling of loss, that you're not sure of yourself. You're kind of wavering, teetering on the cliff's edge of knowing whether or not you should jump. It's terrifying, but at the same time, you're confident in that knowledge that you had. And can you get that back? This entire song is bringing you through the paces of that emotional roller coaster, every single stage of grief. You're not entirely positive or confident in yourself anymore, even though you started there. And you don't really get it back until the very end, where then they finally wrap it back around, and we end on a nice F major 7th, which is easily the most resolved chord we have in this entire selection. It's the most firm harmonically. And I say that's the firmest one because we do get a D minor 7th in here, but as you can hear, that one has a little bit more of a lift to it. It doesn't quite end as solid as the F major 7th does. So even though the D minor is in there, it doesn't necessarily have the same finality that the F does. And I find that interesting because we do start that phrase with a resolution from a D sus4 into a D, very similar to the C sus4 into a C that we had earlier, but this time it just goes here. Then we go back to that B flat major 7th before finally ending on the most solid chord we have. That is the essence of this journey. We start that confidence right where it was, and we end it right where it needs to be. And in between there is a journey of will I, won't I, can I, can't I, that constant weighing of your own psychological health. You don't know if you're okay, because at one point you felt like you were until you weren't. And then from there, you have to figure yourself out all over again until you can find that final confidence one more time. This is beautiful. I love it so much. I love it when musicians music. I love it when composers compose and they know what they're doing when it comes to the emotional weight behind a scene or a situation. And I'm pretty sure that this has to be the story here. I'm not sure what caused this to happen. It could have been a loss. It could have been just themselves feeling at a loss. It doesn't have to be like a physical loss. That very well could be, like if they lost a loved one, but it could also be just a loss of self as well, or just the situation getting a little too out of hand and they're not sure how to cope with that, and kind of blending the two of them, like people dying around them and them not being sure how to become okay with the reality of that situation. Any of those could totally work. Hell, you could lose your favorite lunchbox as a 5-year-old and have this exact same emotional journey. Like I said earlier, this is kind of every stage of the grieving process, and that's why it makes it so beautiful with how it's phrasing out here. And then the lead's just kind of sticking around largely like these notes are like everything that are played for like those individual notes on the lead for the top end. Like that's it. Like it just feels so good because it's all within the key and that's all it needs to be in order to work as a melodic line, as a top line. A lot of the time, that's all you really got to do. You don't have to step too far away from it, and you shouldn't. But for this, I like how it ends the phrase with like it going down to the lower octave. That first one is like, here's the question, there's the answer, and that first one is the one that goes the most south. We never quite go back down to that point again until we revisit it a few measures later. And that's again kind of affecting this learning process where like there's moments in there where it's still dropping, but it's still doing a call and response sort of process where all these relationships are fitting together. And even in there, it's like there's an A minor kind of hidden in some of those, and it's within like, again, the D minor, like the F is as well in there too. So it's like these are notes that are very confident, but leave you kind of hanging on spots like that, like leaving it on the D there. So this is the journey of this song. The entire process of it is bringing you through this stage and this process, and it feels so beautiful. But at the same time, it's also kind of hard to listen to in the empathetic way, where I'm sure we've all felt like this at one point in our lives. If not going through it right now, you have gone through something that made you feel like this, which is that quality of music that I think every composer strives to reach and hit, that feeling of, I've made this song that people can not only just hear, but truly resonate with and be able to connect that to the story that they're trying to tell. This is a beautiful piece and probably one of the best I've heard out of PGR when it comes to just raw compositional awareness and handling the structure of a beautiful emotional story beat. Absolutely gorgeous song. I am really surprised there's not more people asking for songs like this, because while I love the other stuff that PGR does, it's ones like this that remind you that PGR is about people. You know, it's not just like, oh, look, everyone's like kind of a cyborg robot. Oh, the world's ending. Here is a moment that is unabashedly human. And it kind of makes you sit in that and really experience it for a moment. And that is one of the most beautiful things you could ever compose for. But I think I've yapped plenty on this song. I probably yapped much longer than I expected to. I'm not sure how much this one is going to edit down, but it's probably going to be shorter than my yap sessions were either way. Thank you all so very much for watching. If you enjoyed this and you want me to get to something else from PGR, by all means, drop in the comments below and I will do my best as always to get to those. But if you don't want to do any of that, and maybe just want to follow me and support me for more stuff coming in the future, you know how to do all that. And I'll see all of you in the next video. Goodbye!